Hi, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me at the back. A very good evening. My name is Dr. Trinetra, but that is a bit of a mouthful for many people, so please feel free to call me Trin. And if you must annoy me, then call me Trin Trin, which is my Instagram username. Just the other day, my friend was saying to me, Trin Trin, you need to have an air of mystery to you. You aren't, you put too much out there. There's too much honesty on your profile. You need to tone it down a bit, you know. You need to be enigmatic. And I laughed and I said, okay, fair enough. I may have accidentally turned chronic oversharing into a career, which is how the casting directors of Made in Heaven found me. But that said, for me as a transgender woman, chronic oversharing was not a choice. It just happened. When I was much younger, say 4 or 5 years old, I didn't have necessarily the language to understand who I was. So when I finally found it, I had to explain myself on stages like this, at home, in educational institutions. I had to explain over and over again who I was and what being transgender meant. And for those of you that don't know, a transgender person is someone who does not identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth. And I always felt like I just wasn't a boy. That wasn't me, it wasn't working. And I think I realized over time that for our community, our survival is contingent on being understood, to some degree at least. And that sort of takes me back to the time that I was an intern. Any doctors in the house this evening? A show of hands? No? So I'll tell you, for an intern in the hospital doing her MBBS, we are, for lack of a better word, cattle. We're slaves. We do a lot of unpaid labor in the sense that there's a lot of manual labor involved. We do a lot of scut work and a lot of doing discharge summaries and things like that. And so one fine day, I land up in the female ward, all right? And there is a patient. She's wearing slightly boyish clothes, right? Short hair, a bit of facial hair. And the friends have told me that their friend has consumed many sleeping pills and has tried to end their life. And when I looked at that patient, I knew that face all too well. I'd been there in high school, right? I knew what it was like to not know why you're feeling so uncomfortable in your skin, why people don't seem to understand. And the first thing I said to this patient was, your file says female. Do you want me to refer to you as something else? And their face completely changed, completely. And this person suddenly says, you're the only doctor who has asked me that question. Thank you. I don't think people realize that the risk of suicide for an Indian transgender person is nearly 50%. Did you know that 1 in 2 transgender people will attempt suicide before the age of 20? And it's been proven that it's not because of who you are as a human being, but it's because of what you're subjected to. There are social factors involved, right? Being understood, like I said, our survival depends on it. So being mysterious is not really something that we get to do. But a few months later, I wanted to be very mysterious for somebody I had a giant crush on, as we usually do in college, and I wanted to play hard to get. Up until that point, I had only been seen as somebody different. I wasn't given equal treatment as a human being. I'd been thrown out of classes and so on and so forth. But this person treated me like a human being first and then a doctor, and allowed me to pick up the knife. And he taught me how to assist. He taught me how to be a doctor, to be a surgeon, And I learned so much in that time. And by the time my internship ended, we'd become very, very close. He was spending near every day at my house. And like I said, I was smitten. I, for the first time in my life, had in front of me a man that didn't harass me or bully me or see me as any different, but taught me instead, mentored me instead, and also called me very beautiful. And the bar was very, very low at the time, I must say. And it was only when his phone buzzed one day and I saw the wallpaper and it was him and a woman and two beautiful children. That's when it hit me that only spending time in my apartment and not outdoors at a restaurant, never meeting friends, it had a reason. And it boils down to the same thing. It boils down to shame. It boils down to stigma. And I took many, many months to recover from the process of, getting over heartbreak. It was my first. And I think all of that education, all of that privilege and acceptance at home, it didn't protect me from this. And it taught me something very important, that you need to have a certain sense of self-worth, and it needs to come from within. It cannot come from anywhere else. And many, many, thank you. And that came a little late in life, I must admit. And for me, I'll tell you when it happened. I was driving to Andheri for yet another audition, and I find this huge billboard, right? And I think it must have rolled at some point in the background. It was the poster for Made in Heaven Season 2. And amongst those very talented people was the face of a transgender woman, myself. I did not grow up seeing transgender people on billboards, and if I did, I may have settled not for so little in partners, in life, in general. And it took me that moment to open my phone, send a picture of that to everybody, and block him. I was done. Yeah, that's the one. I was done settling. I said, our survival is contingent on being understood. But I must say, I refuse to settle for that. I don't want to just be understood. That's the bare minimum. We don't deserve that. We don't deserve just to survive. We deserve to thrive. We deserve to live. And we will. Thank you.